How did you wind up meeting Anton LaVey?
Well, that's an interesting story, and it's a really long. Well, it's in my memoir, but I'll give you a Reader's Digest condensed version. I in 1992, during the LA riots, I was going around with my video camera filming all of the riot damage, and my friend Adam Parfrey, the late publisher of Feral House, and before that, Amok Books. He was a good friend of mine. And one day, one morning, it was after filming riot footage and stuff, I went over to visit him, and he was having breakfast. And he told me that he was working on a documentary with Nick Bougas about Anton LaVey, and it was going to be called Speak of the Devil. And he was interviewing people for the documentary, and he knew that the Satanic Bible had a big impact on me when I was a teenager, and that I had purchased it at a book fair in high school, and that I read it cover to cover right away, and it became kind of like my self-help book when I was a teenager, a shy teenager. And so Adam already knew this about me, and he said, "Larry, I want you to tell that story in my documentary." And I said, "Well, certainly, I'd love to, And so I said, "I'll go home and dress up in a black suit and a black tie, black shirt, and all of this." And he said, "No, I want you to just stand in the front yard right now, and I'm going to videotape you." And so I was kind of on the spot, but I of course I agreed. And so I'm wearing a red wife beater T-shirt and shorts and tennis shoes. And I'm standing on Adam's lawn in LA and talking about how the Satanic Bible influenced me as a kid, and I went on and on and on and on about it, and I thought it would be cut, and I might have a few seconds in the documentary, whatever. But Nick Bougas was so impressed with what I had to say that he left the whole thing in. So you can see me in Speak of the Devil, a documentary about Anton LaVey, pontificating about the Satanic Bible. Well, so that was that. That was this one morning in Los Angeles in 92. And then what happened after that was really peculiar. I was invited to a record release party for a band called Ethel Meatplow. Now, I was friends with the members of this band, and they got a contract from Warner Brothers. So they threw this huge party, Warner Brothers did, and it was like free-flowing alcohol. It was just unbelievable. And there were a lot of people showed up to this thing. And the bar was like about 5 or 6 people deep, and it was hard to even belly up to the bar to get a drink. But I was there waiting, my turn to get a drink, and this gorgeous young woman was staring at me from the other end of the bar and caught my eye, and we made eye contact, and she just slowly, it was almost like a movie, she just kind of very slowly drifted toward me, and she said, "I saw you in the Satan documentary." And I said, "What Satan documentary?" Nobody had even told me that this film had been completed. And so she told me that it premiered up in San Francisco, and that Anton LaVey was so impressed with my section of the documentary that he wanted to meet me. And Becky said, "I can introduce you to Anton LaVey. How would you like that?" And I said, "I would love that." She said, "Well, when's the next time you're going to be in San Francisco?" I said, "Well," and I knew I had some vacation time coming up at work. So I said, "I don't know, in a couple of weeks." She goes, "It's done." She goes, "Come up and you can stay with me in my apartment, and I will introduce you to Anton LaVey, because he said he really, really wants to meet you. And she says, by the way, one of the last things she told me, she goes, by the way, I sleep in a coffin. So I thought that was really funny, and both funny and kind of intriguing, a little creepy, But I said, okay, I'll stay with you. And so, boy, oh boy, I was real excited, and I was a little disappointed that my friends didn't tell me, the film was out or anything. And so eventually, I contacted Bugas, and he sent me a, nice VHS copy. It was on VHS at the time. He sent me a VHS copy of it, and a bunch of covers, and things, ephemera. And so I went up to San Francisco to meet Anton LaVey, and boy, oh boy, that was a life-changing experience. And we became very fast friends. And one of the things I was worried about is because I had, read up on, I had done a lot of reading about LaVey, and I read his book and everything else, and I knew that he was a real serious animal lover. And I thought, oh no, what's going to happen? I'm working on this documentary about bullfighting, and I want to tell him about it, but I'm worried that he might take offense, And the exact opposite was true. He said that Larry, I'm a very serious aficionado of bullfighting. He said, and then he told me the story about how he learned to play the Paso Dobles by visiting Tijuana's bull ring when he was a child. And he told me about his favorite matador, and he told me all these great bullfight stories. And I was just enthralled and so happy that he was into bullfighting. It was great. And then that night, any visit with Anton LaVey extends into the wee hours of the morning, and you don't get out of there until the sun comes up. And so during those wee hours, he invited me into his kitchen where he had his keyboard set up, and he played for me all of this wonderful, wonderful medley of bullfight Paso Dobles. And it just brought tears to my eyes. It was incredible. And no sheet music or anything. It was all from memory,